office here, and we're part of the Seattle district. And also what we call the DITO, the District International Trade Officer. And I'm covering for my buddy John Brislin, who is on a well-deserved break for a few days. And he is in our international trade and finance specialist, and also with SBA's Office of Manufacturing and Trade. So he's away on vacation. John and I work very closely with our SBA Resource Partner Network, our Small Business Development Center, SCORE chapters, Veterans Business Outreach Center, Women's Business Centers, and certainly our state partners that one of our presenters today is going to represent. So this year's underlying theme is, are you ready to export? And this is part of our Wednesday webinar series. And it's also known as Partnering in Exporting, where we will focus on examples of how Washington Export Outreach Team works together with other trade promotion agencies, industry associations, commodity commissions, economic development organizations, international trade organizations, and other businesses to help sell their goods and services internationally. So exporting does take teamwork to succeed. And once you line up your team of public sector agencies and nonprofit organizations and private sector providers, you'll become a proactive, what we call a proactive exporter, which will enable you and your company to succeed in your exporting journey. So I'd like to welcome you to the sixth Are You Ready to Export? And it's part of our Wednesday webinar series, which Neil mentioned. And with this program today, we are featuring our Washington State Department of Agriculture and the Washington Small Business Development Centers. And each of them are going to speak about how they collaborate to support Washington State's agricultural sector, including value-added food and value-added beverage companies. And I am particularly fond of that. I have a 30-year background in food manufacturing, and we actually did some exporting back in the day up into Canada. So this month's speakers are featuring Julie Johnson from our Washington State Department of Agriculture. She is an export development and outreach trade specialist and is into international marketing and programming. And in this capacity, Julie covers the state in working with new to export and new to market ag companies to become ready to export. She helps to identify and provide resources to Washington companies and does the programs, company recruitment and outreach and resource referral and market identification. After Julie, we're going to bring in Alan Peterson and Christy Maston. Alan and Christy are both international trade advisors for our Washington Small Business Development Center. Alan's played a vital role in development of Washington's SBDC's outbound trade missions to international markets. And this is where they introduced Washington companies to foreign buyers. And Christy, it brings a decade of experience as an international sales representative for a family-owned company, so a very interesting perspective. And Christy has expertise across multiple areas of international trade and a strong background in lending, particularly focused on agribusiness loans. So really great experts. And I guess we'll kick it off here with Julie. And Julie, have at it. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Joel. I really appreciate it. So great introduction. Thank you for being here. Next slide, please. So this actually isn't my slide. There we go. So thanks a lot. Really want to thank you and thank Alan and Christy for joining me. Today we're going to talk about how we collaborate. I'm going to give a brief introduction, and then Christy and Alan are going to introduce SBDC. And then we really want to have a conversation and kind of a Q&A. So again, thanks for joining us. I wanted to talk about how important exports are to our Washington economy. And so I've got a couple slides on statistics. So in 2024, we had $19 billion of exports out of our ports, and that is Washington product as well as pass-through products. So actually, Washington origin food and ag exports were $7.6 billion. So food and ag is number two behind aerospace. So we really export a lot of food and ag. At least 40% of Washington jobs are tied to international trade. Over 95% of our customers are outside of the US. And this really became apparent during the pandemic when, companies had to pivot. They had to look at market diversity so that they could increase stability of their business. Next slide, please. So our top trading partners and top exports are right here. The top 10 are on our agency website, but we just got numbers finalized and posted. Canada is our number one market at 1.4 billion. It'll be interesting to see what happens in 2025. Japan, number two at 1.1 billion. Mexico, 908 million. The thing about Mexico is they moved to number three. So China's been our number three market for many, many years, and now they are down to number four at 692 million, and then South Korea at 508 million. The next five are the Philippines, Taiwan, Indonesia, Hong Kong, and Vietnam. And so here are our top export products, frozen French fries, which people oftentimes think is interesting at 1.1 billion. Fish and seafood number two at 940 billion. Apples moved from four to three at 845 million, and their exports are up 24%, which is great for apples. And then wheat is now 652 million, number four, and dairy 564 million at number five. So the next five are hay, hop cones, beef, fresh sweet cherries, pulses, which are beans, lentils, and peas. All right, next slide, please. So our mission really is helping companies expand, making buyer-seller connections. We deliver resources, advocate for global market access, and work with industry and their needs. Next slide. So our international marketing program, how do we help? We work with small to medium-sized Washington suppliers of agricultural and food products, both fresh and processed, beverages, also nursery hay, and pet foods. 98% of exports are small businesses. So really think about that. We oftentimes, companies think they're too small. A lot of our companies are, anywhere from 1 to 10 employees. We can work with larger companies, but really they only reach out to us when they have something stuck in customs or there's trade barrier issues. They really don't need our assistance. So here are the three core functions of our program: the export development, which is the work that I do. And that's a lot of resource referrals, helping companies really become export ready. The export assistance work is matching buyers and sellers. They are doing the trade activities, providing technical assistance. And then the market access work is a government to government work. And although we have staff that focus in these areas, we each play a role in all of these areas. There are, some overlapping. Next slide, please. So we assist Washington state suppliers at all levels of the exporting journey. It takes patience and time, and it's really about building relationships in these different markets. And so a new to export company are really companies that I mostly work with. and they're a company that has no experience in exporting. They've been operating for a year, maybe up to 3 years, but really haven't made any sales. And they really are just starting their journey, trying to learn what resources are and learn as much as they can, as well as getting some maybe some research or some market reports. And then there's new to export with some experience, and they're domestic focused companies, and they're really selling reactively. So they get an email or they get a message from their website. And so they're really trying to decide, is this a valid importer, which we can help with that as well, vetting, to the best of our ability. But we've got, contacts that we can help you with that. They really have no clear global market strategy. They're like, whoever wants my product, I want to get it there. So we really try to help companies get kind of a more focused approach. And then there's currently exporting companies, and they're a company that's actively selling its products to customers in other countries. They may be looking for new markets, and they really understand the different cultures. And so, next slide, please. So here is our Washington-based staff trade team. Ryan Ham, who's our manager in Olympia, she really works, she does a lot, but some of her focus is on market access issues, collaborating with industry and federal partners. She does the governor-led and director-led trade missions and other government-to-government work. I handle the outreach for the program, and I'm also in Olympia. I call myself the great connector because I like to set up a 30-minute consultation to learn about your company, what you're trying to do, what you're doing domestically. And then I can help you, I can help connect you with those different resources to help you get that information that you need. I'm usually the first point of contact in our program. And then we have the 3 other trade specialists, Rebecca Weber in Tri-Cities, Zachary Garza in Othello, and Elisa Dawn in Seattle. And they focus on regions as well as markets and certain product sectors. Next slide. So briefly here, and this is on our website as well, it's going to list the markets that they focus on as well as the different industries. And so you might work with a couple of us depending on your products and the market. So say I'm a cider company trying to get my cider to China. You're going to work with Zachary Garza and Elisa Dawn. And so our program collaborates and works closely together as well. Next slide, please. So I want to touch on the export assistance that the trade specialists can provide. The technical assistance, really, they do this every day. Our overseas reps do this work as well, and I'll touch on them a little bit later. But they can help with market intelligence, export import documentation, shipping payments, custom clearance. They're really there for that technical side. They do the trade activities, which are the inbound missions where we bring buyers to Washington to meet with suppliers. The outbound missions, which is where we take suppliers out to the different markets, trade shows, and promotions. A lot of this work is done through our trade association, WSDA, but really we do this work as well with our reps, with our partners, which we're going to talk more about. And then they also do the buyer-seller matchmaking. Ultimately, that's really what you want, is to meet the buyers in the markets. And so by getting into our database, and I'm going to plug this a few times, that is how you receive information about different, webinars, trainings, trade leads, different outbound, inbound missions. And so it's really the way we communicate. But if you're in our system and I get a trade lead. In fact, recently we've gotten 2 trade leads, one from Vietnam for seafood and another one from Korea. So they're coming from our reps for seafood as well. So I can go into our system and we can search and bring up a supplier list for them. We also have a public database site, and that public database site, buyers can go directly and search for suppliers on their own. We supply buyer supplier itineraries. So we've got an agricultural trade office coming here. They're bringing a certain group. We help set up supplier itinerary. So again, if you're in our database, you can be in that mix to be able to meet with this buyer delegation that comes. We really help help you find qualified buyers, agents, and distributors. Next slide, please. So I want to touch on our international trade representatives. They're a great resource for Washington companies, and they're there. I can do an email introduction, or you can reach out to them directly. They are in-country market experts and are a free resource to Washington companies. So use them, use them, use them. They are there in the market and can help connect you with buyers. So we have representation in Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Southeast Asia, which is Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines, Mexico and Central America. And then 2 project reps or contractors, which is South America and in the Middle East. Unfortunately, we currently have a freeze on spending. And so, we haven't been able to do projects with them for a while. So next slide, please. Here is some of the work that they can do. It's not all inclusive, but really want to hit some highlights. I mentioned trade leads, meeting. They can make direct contacts with buyers. They can help with market research and pricing, help with translation services. So you have a brochure, you're going to go to a trade show, they can help translate that brochure. They're not going to translate a 25-page document, but if it's a front and back or a brochure, then that's something they can do for you. They can help with guidance on shipping and customs, offer trade barrier assistance, help with scheduling in-market appointments, and attend those meetings to help translate if that's something that you need. They're really the local knowledge and personal experience in those markets. They travel to Washington once a year for company consultations, which I'm going to talk about. Next slide, please. This year, it's August 4th through 8th. We'll be bringing them. There'll be 14 of us total, so a lot of us. We're looking at doing consultations in either Tacoma or Seattle, and then we'll go to Yakima. So right now, we're in the process of planning and getting everything approved with our spending freeze. Looks like we'll have to kind of try to scale back, and I'm not sure really what that means yet. So again, by being in our database, you'll get the information. There'll be signups, first come, first serve. There will only be so many space, so much space for companies to meet. It's a 30-minute consultation with them to talk about your products. They can give you labeling feedback, taste profile information. It's really a great opportunity to build relationships with them as well. So when they do get a trade lead or meet a buyer, your company name comes to mind. Again, it's first come, first serve, but it's, I really encourage you to sign up. Next slide, please. So this slide here is going to talk about our WIAT a little bit more in depth. And so here are the partners. Myself and SBDC are highlighted because that's what we're highlighting today. but these are all partners that we refer companies to all the time. So WSDA really is one of our key partners for Washington State. It's a federal funded, they're a trade association, and federal funds funnel through them, and that's how we do a lot of our work. The Export Finance Assistance Center of Washington does finance counseling and bank matchmaking. She puts on a lot of excellent webinars on export topics. It's really fabulous because now they're webinars and easy to join. Back in the old days, I say before COVID, they were all seminars, and so people had to show up in person. We've got the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, which is here today. They have their own finance programs as well, and they're really a leader of this WEOC group, which is really great to have them. Exim Bank, they have a 90% of their clients are small businesses. They used to, a company had to be 3 years in business in order to use their services. And now they have programs if you're in business for a year or more. So they work more with new to exports companies and startups, which is really great. The Washington State Department of Commerce, they have a STEP voucher program, which I am referring companies to and talking about. It's a $10,000 depending on the activity, or excuse me, up to $10,000 with a 25% cash match. So it's definitely worth looking into to help you do some of your export work. And then the U.S. Commercial Services is the Gold Key service, which is a fee paid service. So you can pay a fee to have them set up matchmaking meetings, which is really great. They are not in all the markets, but they are in quite a few of the markets. Next slide. I just want to thank you. Here's my contact information, and now I will hand it over to the Small Business Development Center.
Thank you, Julie. And we have Alan Peterson and Christy Masson. You're both muted right now.
Yeah, well, thank you, Julie. We are really happy to both be here today to share our part of the story working with you. So if you go to the next slide, please. So who in the heck are we, right? So a lot of people don't know about us, but the SBDC is a nationwide program, and it was started back in the Carter administration. In 1980, he signed the Small Business Development Act, something like that. And state by state sort of joined. And what happened is Congress has given money for this program, and it's funneled through the Small Business Administration. And the idea is to give small business assistance distributed similarly to how Extension does with farmers in the ag area. To rural areas, but since then it's grown into cities too. So in every state which we're in, the SBA partners contracts with an entity. And so in Washington State, since 1980, Washington State University has been that entity that is contracted with the Small Business Administration to run the Small Business Development Center network in Washington State. So both Christy and I are employees of Washington State, but we have economic development organizations, universities, and community colleges that are partners in this program as well. So we have offices that are located in those. As an example, I'm in the Grant County Economic Development Council offices here. You can go to the next slide, please. Here's where we all are. And those are our partners on the right. Western Washington University, Green River Community College, Center for inclusive entrepreneurship, and I can't read those other ones, but we are, I think, 35 offices, 45 advisors. We go through a pretty rigorous certification to become a certified business advisor, what we call it. And the where we're located, because besides population density on the west side, but it was originally laid out so that you would be within an hour's drive to get help from BDC. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So of the 45 of us, 2 of us, Christy Maston and myself, deal with international trade. And I cover counties that are in the gray area, and Christy covers the other parts of the state. So we kind of have it divided that way. There still is no wrong door. If you're seeking assistance, you contact any of us. Next slide, please. So what do we do? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So some of the services that we offer and things that we do on a daily basis at no cost to our client base includes this list here, and focused on the export. As Alan mentioned, he and I are the international trade advisors for the Small Business Development Center. So we focus on exporting to markets around the world, providing research for that, and as well as kind of the one-on-one, where are you in your company? Is the company set up and established well to enter an international trade piece? And it doesn't have to be a large, section of your sales. If you just want to try and see if you can enter a market and maybe grow to 5 or 10% of your sales being in an export market. Or we work with companies that have all of their sales or majority of their sales in an export market. Again, we're very flexible in working with all different sizes, helping with financial statements as well, and then managing capital with the focus of looking at export markets. Next slide. These are just additional areas that we cover. Again, the one-on-one advising really helps us to get and to support the businesses where they are located and what section and segment they are, whether it's a startup business and you're just, planning the business, getting your business plan together, or whether you have a couple years of experience in domestic sales and want to, look into that export market. Also, when you get to the point of buying or selling your business at the end of the life cycle, we can help you kind of establish and get your business ready for sale. And then, as it mentions here, cost-cutting strategies, we've all been put into the tailspin this year, it seems like, with tariffs, and what does that really mean for your purchasing of inventory? How can you best manage that cost of inventory? All of those things we can do one-on-one advising sessions and help you provide guidance and resources to hopefully make the best decisions that for your business success. Next slide. Also, we do the low or no cost trainings similar to this, but we do have our own webinar training platform that has a lot of different trainings offered, as you can see here. Through last year, over 4,500 attended our trainings of over 200 in various different topics. We have a great series on cybersecurity. We do marketing, finance, accounting, have HR and payroll, as well as export series that's coming up. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, so the export series we have ready for takeoff, our strategies for export success. The next one we have coming up is June 10th, and it's specifically for marketing and the one-on-one meeting strategies. As Julie mentioned, those trade representatives and trade missions that Washington Department of Ag put together really, there is a strategy and to get the most out of it for businesses. We want to work with you to make sure that you're well prepared with your marketing pitch. And so this webinar that we have coming up June 10th, please go to our website and sign up as well, because it does have great information. And then on July 8th, we have a logistics and payments webinar, again, focused for the international trade clientele and how to manage your logistics and payments. Next slide, please. So there is our contact information for both Alan and I. Please reach out with any questions and we're happy to help. Slide.
All
All
right.
right.
Go
Joel,
ahead,
are you
Julie.
gonna jump in? Sorry.
No, you go right ahead, Julie.
Okay. So really, we wanted to give an overview and we really want to jump in and talk about all the different ways that we collaborate. So we really work closely together and we're going to kind of alternate. I'm going to ask the questions and we hope to have a conversation, and it's going to kind of alternate between Alan and Christy. And so I'm going to start my program at the Washington State Department of Agriculture and the SBDC. We refer ag companies to each other for exporting assistance. And really, about 98% of the time, SBDC is the first referral that I make because a company wants help to get their export piece into their business plan. And so this first question is going to be for Alan. When I refer a company to you, what are the first steps for them to take, I guess?
Unmute yourself, Alan.
So the first thing is we want to meet them where they're at. And so basically getting an assessment of where they're at, what their strengths and weaknesses are. Or if most cases, probably we learn about a lot of people start exporting because they'll tell you, hey, I got an email from Lithuania or Korea or South America, and they want to explore that thought of actually exporting. And so we would maybe start looking at a market where there's interest for their product, which incidentally is usually not the best market. It's just a one-off that they got. And our job then is to help in market research to actually find the best country and market to enter. And so basically we will go through things, two things. One was the market, and the other one is will you have capacity to actually fulfill containers full of product, if that might be. So that's always an issue. So we'll look at the whole business as an entity to have the ability to fulfill a market need in exporting. So that's kind of where we start.
Great. So, Christy, what is involved in being an SBDC client, and is there a cost associated with the service?
And so as we mentioned, all of the SBDC services are at no financial cost. We do request that you complete surveys. So there are several surveys, both statewide and national surveys, that will be sent to you and requesting information about the progress of the company. Because again, our goal as advisors is to have successful small businesses. And in order to measure that success is through these surveys that you report number of employees, what your sales are, and that type of thing. So although it's no financial cost, it is a cost of your time, and also the cost of your time to go through these advising sessions with us and work on the homework and hopefully again work within your business to better the performance of your business.
Great. And I want to comment too that our program is a free service as well. I tell companies it's your taxpayer dollars, so use our services. And so all of these partner organizations are most of them are free or very low cost. So use us. So this one question is for Alan. We talked about earlier the business planning. And so how do you help companies with their business plan and what's the process?
So a lot of companies will work with our have been in business for a while. So one of the first things I'll say is, can you go to your file cabinet and pull out that business plan you did years ago that you filed it when you were done and never looked at it, and see where they're at as far as maybe what they thought they might do. That's one way. Another thing is I like to do a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I kind of like to do it backwards. Do the opportunities and threats first, and then address your strengths and weaknesses to those. A lot of companies I work with, and they go through the strengths and weaknesses, they beat themselves up so bad on the weaknesses it doesn't matter anymore. So it's much more fun to work on towards opportunities and threats. And that's a good place to start. And the other thing is, and which we cover in our next webinar that Christy and I will be doing, is telling your story. But you need to identify your niche. You need to identify what problems you solve for a potential buyer. And so we'll work on that, and then work on the markets, and then market entry strategies to go with that. So as far as their business plan, all of if they have a business plan already, we try to fit the export part of it to meld into it, because in a business, everybody's in it affected, right? So if the management's got to be convinced, they have to drive this, and people who are in marketing and sales or production or logistics, it's a team sport, as you had mentioned earlier, and everybody has got to be involved. And so there's a process of in instituting the export portion into every aspect of that business. And so that's a big piece of what we do. So the process for a startup is typically I run through financials first. And do everything, and the financial is your business plan. It's just numerically expressed. And so sometimes that's a lot easier. We find that I find that's a much better place to start. And so the business has goals. They have a purpose for existence, and we just need to incorporate that into a operational plan for them.
Great. Chrissy, is there anything else to add, that a company needs to know about your services?
Well, the no cost and then confidential. We keep all the information confidential, as Julie mentioned as well, when working together. No door is the wrong door, and you kind of hear that, but we can work with various different organizations at the same time. You can work with, Department of Ag and still be an SBDC client. Again, on these trade missions that we've shared, clients getting prepared to go on to have all that information, can work with really the specifics in the marketing and the materials and what that content is with their SBDC advisor, and then use the trade representatives with Washington Department of Ag and do translations and talk about kind of colors and that type of thing that would be market specific. So we do work together, but we do keep information confidential unless, of course, our clients provide the okay that we can share information between entities and companies.
Great. So now I'm going to talk about the other services that SBDC provides to companies that are considering exporting. And then we're going to really jump into how we really collaborate. But Alan, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add about your advising and one-on-one coaching services. I mean, SBDC really coaches them all along. Where Department of Ag, we may get a company reach out to us, they get their answer, and then they go away for a while for whatever reason. So where, SBDC, Alan and Chrissy really kind of coach all the way along, I guess. So I don't know if you want to add anything else about the coaching.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, Christy and I are we get into the weeds with a business because we do all aspects. If it's personnel, financials, marketing, et cetera. We're the ones that get into the weeds and kind of help people move through different services. We don't know everything really, really well, but we have 45 colleagues that are all ex-business people that have expertise in certain areas that we can rely upon. And again, all of that is confidential, but it's not, it's there. We have access to knowledge in the Department of Ag as well as the contractors we know them very well because we've worked with them and so the one-on-one is where we really get to know a business and the insides of the business, and that's where we're able to help and bring in expertise if we need it to get some answers.
So Christy, what should a company do to prepare ahead of time for your meetings when they were going to meet with you? Is there a short list of things they need to bring with them, or what's the?
Yeah, because we kind of meet each company where they are. It would depend on where and what, you're really focused on getting out of the advising from SBDC. So we don't necessarily have a checklist. I just say, be prepared to have conversations, in-depth conversations about your company, what you would like, the kind of the goals to be. And understand that, we are here for the long term, as Alan mentioned, and you did too, Julie. Clients come in and then they kind of disappear for a while, and that's great. And we hope that you're doing well. But we would appreciate, just even checking in with us and say, hey, I would like a financial checkup. Could you help me with that? And just say, I feel like things are going well, but, a third pair of eyes never hurts. So, those types of things of we can help you if you're in a stuck position, but we can also help if you are just looking for another option or another, like I said, another business perspective for your business. All of that we can do. And again, it's how you prepare, similar to like your trade mission and your marketing that presentation of what businesses and companies would like from their advising sessions and how they feel like it would best benefit their business.
So I'm kind of watching the time, and it's 10:45. I think I'm going to jump ahead so we can get more into the meat of things. I'm gonna touch on the things you guys do, but then I think I want to jump more into kind of how we've collaborated. SBDC does research. They have interns that can do in-depth research, as well as they have a pricing calculator. So I've sent 2 companies just last month to them to help with pricing. And so I guess let's touch on the pricing, because I think that's really a great service that nobody else provides. And so Alan, if you can give a brief, like, how does a calculator work, I guess.
Well, what I did is if anybody's taking a class on Incoterms, there's a chart that shows from Xworks to DDP, there's 11 different Incoterms, and each Incoterm, the buyer and the seller have different responsibilities. And so what I did is I took that chart and I just made it a calculator. So You can, if you're working with your freight forwarder, they can give you basically all the costs that are probably involved. This isn't going to be exact. It's going to get you in the ballpark to help you with your pricing. But depending on the Incoterms that you agree upon with your buyer, there's going to be certain costs that the seller incurs, costs that the buyer incurs, insurance. And where risk takes over for the buyer, from the seller to the buyer, for the shipment, those kinds of things. So the calculators actually, you're able to input numbers that you get from your freight forwarder, your custom broker, for costs that are associated with that. And so it's a guide to get you in the ballpark, especially if you know what what a competitive product is in another country, and that's kind of your target. You can change different Incoterms to help with your pricing to be competitive. So it's based off of that chart, and I just made it a calculator.
Great. Yeah, I think it's a really, really helpful tool. So the SBDC is a really valuable partner organization to our international marketing program. I mentioned earlier that our in-market representatives have coverage in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, South Korea, Japan, Mexico, and Central America. So all our partner organizations can reach out to our program to discuss potential projects with our reps. So wanted to mention that. And so Christy, what work have you done with our in-market reps? You know, if you could just give a couple examples of things we've done together.
Sure, yeah, they're a valuable resource to all of the Washington state companies. Definitely, they just have a wealth of information and are very helpful and accommodating to get assisting in pricing. Like Alan mentioned, the price calculator, we have put that together to use, but the actual specifics of what are the duties for each product that enters the country? What are some of the VATs, or, all of those other pieces, tariffs, etc., for that pricing? The in-market reps help us collect that information. Also help in asking just specific market questions on mentioning earlier the flavor profiles. The flavors that are accepted here in the United States are different than Asia, could be different than the Middle East, Africa, etc. So that's valuable information. And then, of course, the trade missions, they're just key in putting those together because of the companies that they know and the networking that they have the ability to make, whether it be, for a distributor or for the trade shows in all different, industries and commodities, right?
Yeah, so Alan, how is having access to our in-market reps helpful when you're assisting Washington food and ag companies?
So they are invaluable. They just know things, and I feel very comfortable being able to email them. A lot of clients do as well, and the companies that I work with that I think do the best surround themselves with team members. So Julie and an in-country rep is probably involved in an email, and I'm involved with an email, and so they keep us abreast of what's going on, so they get input from all of us, because working with all of us is a better thing for the most part. And so the in-country reps are they're really valuable, and especially if I think about something at 1 a.m. that wakes me up, I can email those guys and they email right back because it's daytime for them. So I've done a lot of that. But the in-country reps it's just invaluable. They answer questions, and they answer every question, whether it's a silly question or it's terribly in depth, and they can do that. So very, very helpful.
Thanks, Ellen. So, real brief, I'm going to touch on, we've done webinars together. So these Wednesday webinars, in the past, we would do a couple webinars a year, all of the partners, and now the focus is on these Wednesday webinars. So we collaborated with the Small Business Development Center and did a pricing strategies webinar, and that's on, that recording is on our resources page on the website. So we're always looking for different topics that we can collaborate on. Ryan Ham, who's our manager, she got asked to be on the SBDC Advisory Council. And so, you know, that was really great that they saw the value to be partners and have her on there to listen to what SBDC is doing and their plans. So now I'm going to shift gears and we're going to talk about 3 missions. This is what I really wanted to get to. And this is what this slide is about, is the pictures from the different missions that we did together. And so we collaborated on these 3 missions from 2020 to 24. And for us, WSDA, the benefit of partnering with the Small Business Development Center on these missions is that we're able to focus only on helping Washington companies. And so a lot of our funding comes through our trade association, WSDA, and that is a regional focus. So we are doing missions, but we may only have 3 or 4 companies join, and the rest are from the region. Could be Hawaii, it could be Idaho, California. Actually, they take a lot of spots. So that's what's really great about collaborating with the SBDC, is they were able to get this grant, which we're going to talk about, to only help Washington companies. So the first question is for Christy. Again, time's ticking away, so we need to probably be briefer more and more, but they received a portability grant. And so if you want to just give a brief intro, kind of what that was all about.
Yeah, so the SBA portability grant allowed us to partner with other organizations like Washington Department of Ag, as Julie mentioned, from 2020 to 2024, to provide the opportunity to get Washington state companies and trade missions together, right? So they provided funding to SBDC, and we reached out to Washington State Department of Ag to coordinate that. And again, working with your in-country trade reps was a big part of making that a success. And we're really excited that, you know, we were able to renew it each year, and went through COVID, so that was a little different too. And the first was a virtual trade mission, which wasn't the anticipation, but it turned out great. And I think we've had great success through the 4 years.
So, so she talked about partnering with our international program. And so I guess, Alan, how come that was decided, I guess? Why did you decide that WSDA was the right organization to partner with?
Well, so the portable assistance grant was to target an industry basically that has been hit hard. And so during COVID, our Washington, distilleries, breweries, cideries, wineries were hit very, very hard. And so that's what we used when we applied for that first grant. And then we already knew that you guys we'd worked with you guys with the Department of Ag, and how valuable that was, and it just seemed like it made a lot of sense. And the SBA really, really liked the collaboration. That was one of the main reasons we probably even got the grant, was that they know that we would be working with the Washington State Department of Ag and the contractors. That was the target, that was the reason, and then a natural fit working with the Washington Department of Ag.
And then Ellen, if you want to continue about which markets were chosen, I know there was a lot of research done to figure out, what were the best markets.
Yeah, so utilizing your contractors' locations, what we did is we had our interns. We have a group of interns in Spokane that are trained on how to do international research, and they have databases that a normal business wouldn't be able to afford. So we've got a few of those. So they did a market research on each winery, cideries, distilleries, brewery category, and picked out which countries where you folks are and close by those countries that might make good fits. And so Mexico was a good first one. Because of COVID, we had to do that virtually. And we also did Hong Kong virtually in the same year. So those were pretty tough, but when we were able to make the actual physical trips, that it just really worked out well. So and you get the grant, and it's just for 1 year. You reapply for the next 2 years, and if the SBA likes what you're doing, they'll grant you that next year 2 and year 3. So and there's only 5 of these given every year. So they really like how this collaboration has worked, and and it's a model for other states to follow in the SBDC world.
Yeah, so really, 2021 was Mexico, 2023 Hong Kong and Taiwan, and then 2024 was Korea. Again, time is almost out. Wanted to really talk about these 3 missions, and they've mentioned that we use our representatives, which is really great. I guess I want to talk about, we talked about how we also collaborated before the missions, right? And there's a lot that goes into it. So we collaborated, had meetings with ourselves. We did webinars for the companies. And we really, like for Mexico, we ended up having to do webinars to teach companies how to use Zoom, right? Because nobody had to use Zoom before. So those webinars focus, of course, it was informational as well, but we had to add a couple more just to teach everybody how to go in and out of meeting rooms. So, a lot of collaboration happened, before as well as on the ground. And so, Alan, I wanted to ask you about kind of the on the ground collaboration that happened when we were actually, for example, Korea, some of the collaboration that we did.
Sure. So a lot of it is prepping the businesses, especially if they're new to export. If you can imagine a company first deciding to go on it, then they got to get an airline ticket, fill out a STEP grant, they got to find a hotel that we're at, they get to the airport, they have all these travel things just to get to the meetings that we are guaranteed them, 5 meetings for each company. In each location that we were at. And so a lot of that, and we had lots of breakfast meetings before they met with buyers. And it's a lot of coaching, a lot of questions that the businesses bring up that we go, where can I fit this into my story? Are you prepared for your story? Do you want to give me your pitch? We did a lot of that. All of us participated in those kinds of things. And we did a lot of Incoterm training on the fly, and those kinds of things. And Christy's been through 1 million of these meetings. And so her insight was, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And so the insight to give to those businesses that were there with them, I wouldn't say hand-holding, but definitely coaching with what they're doing. As most businesses domestically have no problem, giving a pitch, but sitting across from somebody there may be a language barrier, or they may speak English, but they may not speak very good English, and not using big words or jargon, industry jargon that they might not understand. There's those kinds of things that are intangibles that, with us there helping them, I think makes a big difference.
Yeah, and so we were able to, 29 companies participated for a total of 143 plus meetings. Plus, there were networking receptions, which, was additional chances for the suppliers to meet. So really successful in that. Our jobs are really that setting up that buyer seller matchmaking, and then it's up to you to kind of continue those conversations. And so this question is for Christy. What made these missions successful?
Well, I think the ability just to get in front of a buyer, and this is, for companies, the buyers have been vetted. This is a buyer that, potentially is purchasing your product, and it's useful information. Like you would get firsthand market information. If you don't get a sale out of it, use your time wisely to get market information from a buyer in your industry and these countries that you want to get into. So the market information firsthand is just first and foremost, but then again, the different buyers that are being presented, it's all in a short time frame generally and one whirlwind of a day to go through all of these buyers. But it's just really great to then have those contacts and to network and get started, whether it's, expanding more into the market or a new country for you to sell into. Either way, those contacts with the buyers and that information, your ability to practice your sales pitch over and over again gets you in more confident about presenting your products.
So I want to thank you both and let you know how valuable we feel our collaboration is with you. Not one organization has the expertise and can offer all the exporting services and resources. Washington's very lucky to have so many knowledgeable partners. And so I really wanted to thank you both and thank you for joining me today. We're over time. Joel, I don't know if there's any questions or if we just want to end.
Just a few final words. Thank you, Julie and Alan and Christy. The next Are You Ready to Export Partners in Exporting webinar is going to be June 25th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 Pacific time. And that'll feature the Western U.S. Agricultural Trade Association and the Washington State Department of Agriculture, and that'll be in June. And I just wanted to thank our experts for participating today, Julie, with the Washington State Department of Agriculture, and Alan and Christy with our Washington Small Business Development Center. Just great information. It's just the tip of the iceberg, and these are the folks that can help guide you and your business into some really excellent opportunities to help you grow. And I want to thank Neil for handling the technical and marketing of this event series. And Neil, why don't you go ahead and close us out, and we'll let everybody go.
Sure. Well, not much to add there. That was a great outro, Joel, but I will just reiterate thank you for everyone who joined us today and guest spoke today, of course. And just a reminder to keep an eye out for an email from me. So you'll have a recording and you'll have these slides in your inbox shortly. Thanks again, and we hope to see you next time. Take care.
Bye, everybody.